I am the nationally recognized genius painter known as Lonely City. When I found out that my wife cherished my paintings as if they were her life, I still resolutely withdrew from the national art competition and divorced her. All because she cheated on me with the male assistant who had impersonated me in my previous life. She had even gone so far as to break my hands just to help that assistant win the competition. Given a second chance at life, I watched coldly as she made one foolish mistake after another for that fraud, until the day the assistant submitted a blank canvas for the competition and was publicly humiliated. By then, I had already moved to another city, revealed my identity as Lonely City, and attended an art exhibition hand in hand with another woman. Only then did my ex-wife realize she had mistaken a street lamp for the moonlight, crying and begging me to come back. Chapter 1. After my arranged marriage with the CEO, Willow, I was surprised to discover that she had fallen in love with my hidden identity, the genius painter known as Lonely City. So obsessed she became, she ended up cheating on me with the assistant who had impersonated Lonely City. She took him to hotels, bought him a luxury house, and even publicly vowed to help him win the national art competition. One by one, the art world's masters withdrew from the competition, only I signed up, hoping to prove through my work that I was the real Lonely City. But before I could even step into the venue, I was dragged into a bathroom, where my hands were broken, bones shattered, flesh torn and bleeding. I crawled out of that restroom, leaving a trail of blood, only to see Willow's cold and furious eyes staring at me. This year, only Lonely City is allowed to win. Anyone who threatens him will be eliminated. That includes you. I died with hatred in my heart, only to open my eyes again. Mr. Lonely City, are you sure you want to register for the national painting competition? I found myself inside a villa, with a staff member's voice coming from my phone. I had been reborn 10 days before the competition. Looking around the familiar surroundings, painful memories surged back like a flood. Willow had been my childhood sweetheart. We fell in love young and made a promise under the maple tree, faces blushing, to marry when we grew up. As adults, she fought her way into the ruthless business world. While I studied art overseas, business broke her spirit. I, as Lonely City, unknowingly helped her through her darkest time with my paintings. She rose again, becoming the feared CEO of City A. Later, because my paintings became valuable, I was kidnapped, tortured, and forced to paint non-stop for 3 days and nights. Since then, I carried trauma and stopped painting altogether. After I disappeared, Willow's assistant, Makoto, stole my identity and approached her as Lonely City. Watching them grow closer by the day, I had no choice but to re-enter the national art competition and prove who I was with my work. The result? She shattered my hands. As the memories of my past life played before my eyes, I took a deep breath. My heart clenched so tight it felt impossible to breathe. After a long pause, I finally spoke. Cancel the registration. I won't be participating, but I'm planning to hold a solo exhibition in City B, where I'll reveal my identity and show the world the real work of Lonely City. Understood. We'll immediately prepare your train ticket. The exhibition will launch in 10 days. After ending the call, I opened the one unread email in my inbox, marked in red. It was from the imposter, Makoto. Master Lonely City, would you please paint a piece for me? I'll pay anything you want. I curled my lips into a cold smile. The national competition was in 10 days. Makoto clearly couldn't create a painting on his own, so he wanted to keep faking it using mine. In my previous life, I ignored him. This time, I replied on purpose. Let's not talk about money. I'll paint one for you right away. Makoto was overjoyed, completely unaware that I had prepared a blank canvas for him. When the competition begins, he'll be exposed before everyone. I want to see how he handles that. Not long after I sent the message, the villa's front door swung open like usual. Willow stormed in wearing a tight black pencil skirt, followed by a smug-looking Makoto. George, you never trusted Makoto. Now he's going to compete and prove himself. In 10 days, you'll have nothing to say. Arms crossed, Willow issued her command. He'll be staying here tonight to brainstorm with me. You're okay with that, right? Lighting a cigarette, I quietly studied the imposter before me, eyes flickering with complicated emotion. But before I could say anything, Makoto dropped to his knees with false humility. I'm sorry, young Master Wong. I know it's asking too much. I didn't mean to upset you. I'll leave right away. Willow's brow furrowed deeply. George, what's your problem? I was suicidal after my first business failed. It was Makoto's art that pulled me out of depression. He's my savior. Can't you stop being so petty? Chapter 2. Hearing that, my hand holding the cigarette trembled slightly. I asked, when did I ever make him kneel? In both my past and present lives, Makoto always framed me like this, and Willow always took his side. It felt like something had torn through my chest. The pain was so absurd, I nearly laughed. I almost couldn't stop myself from exposing my identity right then and there. But then I thought, I don't want her anymore. Why rush to explain anything? Willow ignored my words. Her eyes flashed with anger. Enough. He's staying here tonight no matter what. If you don't agree, then let's just get a divorce. With that, she bent down, helped Makoto up, and pulled him openly into the study. A numb ache spread through my chest. I turned and walked back into the bedroom, pulled open a drawer, and took out a divorce agreement that already had Willow's signature on it. She had brought up divorce more than once, even signed her name ahead of time to pressure me into accepting Makoto. Those who are loved always feel invincible. She was sure I'd never dare to divorce her. But now, without hesitation, I signed my name. 15 years of childhood friendship, 3 years of marriage, all of it ended in that moment. The next morning, Willow sent a car to pick me up, saying she needed me, as her husband, to attend an art auction. When I arrived, I saw Makoto standing right next to her. The two of them were wearing matching Starry Night-themed custom outfits worth 8 million yuan, drawing whispers from all the other guests. President Liu and her husband are so sweet together. You've got it wrong. The man in black is her husband. That other one's just an assistant. Huh. Then why is she wearing a matching designer outfit with the assistant and dressing her husband in cheap clothes? Rumors flew everywhere. Only then did Willow reluctantly take a step back and hold my arm half-heartedly. I spoke calmly. You brought me here just to show off your couple's outfit. Don't be shallow like the others. This is an 8 million custom art dress. The patterns are all pieced together from Lonely City's paintings. If you don't understand art, don't speak nonsense, Willow explained impatiently, then turned and continued chatting and laughing with Makoto. I said nothing, just pulled a pale smile at the corner of my mouth. Half an hour later, the auction began. Today's theme was artwork, with many rare masterpieces on display. Prices ranged from 1 million to 20 million. Every painting Makoto glanced at, Willow would bid on without hesitation. Her aggressiveness stunned everyone present. I heard President Liu liked art, but this is insane. Can't you see? She's spoiling her assistant. Honestly, her husband looks completely useless standing there. The mocking comments grew louder. I saw a flicker of change in Willow's expression, but she didn't explain anything, until the host brought out the final item. Ladies and gentlemen, the highlight of today's auction is something very special, the rumored final work of the genius artist Lonely City, titled Purgatory. Starting price, 5 million yuan. The moment I saw the painting, every hair on my body stood on end. This was the piece I had created after being kidnapped and tortured for 3 days and nights. Chaotic lines, twisted colors, everything screamed of despair and trauma. I had to win this painting, hide it forever, and make sure it never resurfaced. I bid 10 million. My hand trembled as I raised my paddle, but before I could take a breath, Willow immediately called out, 10 million and 1. No matter how much I offered, she always added just 1 more yuan. The bidding escalated, reaching 80 million. Lips pale, I used every bit of strength I had left. You've already bought dozens of paintings. Do you really have to take this one too? You can't have this one. Willow gave me a cold glance. Her eyes filled with dominating pressure because it belongs to Makoto, and Makoto alone. Chapter 3. This is the painting Makoto made when he was kidnapped. He is terrified of anyone seeing this experience. Every second it's displayed, his pain multiplies. Do you know all of this? Upon hearing this, Makoto clutched his chest and feigned pain, stopping me. Stop talking. Since young Master Wang likes it, let him have it. I can overcome my inner demons. Willow's sadness instantly turned into biting anger as she said, George, Makoto is like this already. If you still want to snatch it, don't blame me for being impolite. However, I ignored her threat, expressionless, raising my hand and saying, I'll place a sky lantern. The whole room instantly erupted in noise. President Liu's husband was actually forced to place a sky lantern. As soon as you place a sky lantern, it means the painting is yours. No matter how expensive, you'll continue bidding. President Liu is spoiling his assistant to the point that her husband has to go through this. Under the spotlight, I took the painting and left, but before I could even reach the parking lot, a group of masked people suddenly appeared and bound me to a warehouse. Young Master Wang, I heard you just placed a sky lantern. Hand over the treasure. Who are you? Get out of my way. I gripped the painting tightly, only to see Willow's figure appear in the corner. She walked out, unashamed, bringing Makoto with her. George, how does it feel to be kidnapped? Though she was the abuser, she questioned coldly. You like placing a sky lantern? Huh? You like competing with him? Right, then I'll let you feel the pain Makoto went through back then. Someone, take the painting from him. Willow, are you crazy? I felt like I was falling into an ice cave. I clung to the painting, but 5 people bound me to a pillar and started beating me. 2 wooden sticks broke, and my internal organs ruptured, spilling blood. I couldn't hold on any longer and let go. This scene reminded me of the time I was kidnapped. The dual torment of physical pain and mental scars made me feel as if I was reliving hell, endlessly cycling through the most hopeless deaths. How's it now? Thank you, Willow. You're so kind. This painting was originally yours. It's just being returned to its rightful owner now. Willow handed the painting to Makoto. Her eyes filled with tenderness, but as soon as she turned her head, she became cold again. Let him reflect on his own. Let's go. I was left hanging there the whole night. The biting wind of the night seeped in, and my heart felt like it was being sliced with knives. After all the blood had drained, I laughed numbly. Willow, you really have no heart. Everything you've done to me will eventually fall back on you. After breaking free from my restraints, I returned to the villa and locked myself in the bedroom for 3 full days. On the first day, I gathered the childhood photos of Willow and me and personally tore them into pieces. On the second day, I dug out all the gifts from when Willow and I were dating and burned them clean in a fire. On the third day, I took down our wedding photo from the wall and clearly divided the assets we acquired after marriage. Once everything was settled, I finally felt at ease. I realized that after losing Willow, I felt as though I had shed a burden and felt clear-headed. While relaxing with some tea, the phone rang. Mr. Lonely City, our Artists Association has awarded you a trophy. Did you receive it? The courier shows it was signed by someone named Ito. I hung up the phone and saw Makoto walk by holding the trophy. I immediately blocked his path. The trophy. Give it back to me. A shadow passed in Makoto's eyes, and he put on a completely different, ruthless face. Yours. Does it have your name on it? I signed for the trophy, so it's mine. I felt disgusted, like stepping in dog feces, but held my composure. Give it back to me. I won't say it a second time. Young Master Wong, you're so impressive. What if I refuse to give it to you? Seeing his arrogance, I couldn't be bothered to tolerate it anymore and yanked the trophy from him. Makoto knew he couldn't win, so he gritted his teeth and slammed it against the wall with all his might. Bang! The crystal trophy shattered into pieces, and the shards cut through both our skin. Downstairs, Willow rushed over at the sound, and Makoto immediately put on an act, covering his wound. Makoto, are you all right? Willow's pupils trembled, as if her heart was shattered. She frantically began to bandage his wound. Makoto looked at her with a pitiful gaze. I'm fine. It's just the trophy that young Master Wong took and broke. He's your husband. You should take care of him first. Chapter 4. So what if he's your husband? Willow's eyes were like daggers, her lips nearly bleeding. George, do you think just because you're my husband, you can take whatever you want from others? Hearing this, I nearly laughed in anger. Take it from him. This trophy was clearly earned by 15 years of my hard work. Stop making excuses. Her tone turned icy. You may have talent, but Makoto is the genius artist. Lonely City. If this trophy is meant for one of you, it's meant for Makoto, not you. With that, she picked up Makoto and took him to the hospital, softly comforting him. Don't worry. Even though George is my husband, he'll never be as important to me as you are. Hearing this, I lay on the ground, my pale lips curling into a cold smile. More than a decade of companionship and dedication couldn't compare to an imposter. Willow, you're something else. You mistook a street lamp for moonlight. I'll wait for the day you regret it. Half an hour later, I arrived at the hospital. Since Willow had taken the car, I had to take a 10-minute ride from the outskirts. By the time I arrived, my wound had bled profusely, and the bleeding wouldn't stop no matter what. Why did it take you so long to get here? You've already lost too much blood. We need to transfuse you immediately, but the blood bank is in short supply. If we don't find a matching blood type within a minute, you'll go into shock. As I listened to the doctor's urgent words, I felt my body growing colder, and my consciousness began to fade. Suddenly, Willow pushed open the door. I'm a match with his blood type. I'll donate the blood. My survival instinct kicked in, and I instinctively reached out for help, but she coldly slapped my hand away. If you want the blood, agree to one condition first. From now on, don't target Makoto. If you violate this, I'll make sure you pay back double the amount of blood. I opened my mouth but found myself unable to say a word. But I had never targeted Makoto. What harm was she talking about? 40 seconds. 30 seconds. The hands of the clock ticked forward. My consciousness became increasingly blurry as Willow continued to coldly demand. You have 20 seconds. Agree, or not. The doctor beside us wiped his sweat and stepped forward to advise, but he was instantly silenced by Willow's glare. 10, 9, 8. Feeling my life slipping away, I realized I had no choice. I could only nod reluctantly. The doctors rushed to prepare the transfusion. As the needle pierced my skin, I slowly lost consciousness, with only a bitter smile at the corner of my mouth. When I woke up again, the pale yellow sunset was blinding. I looked up at the TV, and the time displayed it was already the evening of the 6th day. You're finally awake, the doctor sighed. That lady donated blood and then went off to take care of someone else, leaving you alone here. She must be your friend, right? With such a cold-hearted friend, you're not worth it. Hearing this, I couldn't help but think back to my younger years. I was youthful and full of energy, and she was just as spirited. Every time I got sick, she would climb over the wall, sneak out of class, and personally cook me chicken porridge, feeding me spoonful by spoonful. But now, She openly cared for another man, and the only thing she gave me was conditional. Thinking of all this, I realized I had grown numb. After all, I only had 3 days left before I would leave. These memories no longer mattered to me. My pale lips parted slightly, and I gave a faint smile. Not a friend. And soon, not even a stranger. As soon as the words left my mouth, the door was slammed open, and Willow's face was even paler than mine. What did you just say? Chapter 5. What are you here for? Didn't you finish with your conditions? I avoided her question and didn't look at her again. It seemed that Willow sensed something was wrong, so she reluctantly approached to explain. No matter what, I donated blood to you. As long as you keep your promise, I won't make things difficult for you in the future. But today's incident was impulsive on my part, so I'll consider it even between us. Even. I smiled in a sinister way. Willow, how are you going to make things even with me? You protected other men, publicly humiliated me, broke my hands, made me go through hell. What you owe me can never be made even. It will be paid back 1,000-fold. Before I could say anything, Willow spoke again, as though she were offering charity. Here's the deal. I can see you've been in a bad mood these past few days. Tomorrow, I'll take you to a scenic area to relax. After saying this, she turned and left, not giving me a chance to refuse, but I was already used to it. After all, the only patience she had was for Makoto. The next noon, before I could react, she pulled me to the scenic area in the outskirts. As expected, once we got out of the car, I saw Makoto. At that moment, he was holding a sketchpad and brush, trying to paint the scenery from the mountains, but couldn't get anything right. As an industry leader, I could immediately tell that Makoto was using a limited edition Faber-Castell brush set worth several million, with tools that cost astronomical sums. But over the years I'd known Willow, the gifts I'd received were just a few pencils. Hey, Willow, didn't you say this trip was to help me find inspiration? Why did you bring young Master Wang along? Makoto said, pretending to be fearful. I didn't mean anything by it, but since young Master Wang doesn't like me, I'm afraid it'll cause some conflict. Willow looked slightly embarrassed but quickly explained. Today, I purposely invited both of you to spend time together. The more you interact, the better your relationship will be. Hearing these lofty excuses, I had no reaction left. I accepted the arrangement with a blank expression, letting Willow take me to different spots. While the two of them chatted happily, I said not a word the whole time, simply enjoying the scenery by myself. Soon, the three of us climbed over a mountain and arrived at a boat on the scenic lake. I tensed for a moment. I had almost drowned in a lake when I was a child, so I was terrified of water. But if I closed my eyes and didn't look, I could tolerate it. To avoid Willow using it as an excuse to pick on me, claiming I was targeting Makoto, I held back my discomfort. At the back of the boat, Makoto was contentedly fishing. Willow sat next to him, carefully putting bait on his hook, but then suddenly seemed to remember something. Makoto, I remember you tweeted once that you're afraid of lake water. Just looking at it makes you dizzy and nauseous, and touching it gives you nightmares for days. At this, the previously calm Makoto panicked. He immediately forced a smile, pretending to be unwell. Willow, you care about me so much. You even found out such a deep secret. But this time, Willow furrowed her brow, her expression wary. Wait a second. You've been sitting on this boat for so long. How come you don't seem uncomfortable? She subconsciously looked at me, only to find I had my eyes tightly closed. Memories from our childhood exploded like lightning. George almost drowned as a child. He was also afraid of lakes. Not only that, George studied abroad for art, and his skills are top tier in the industry. What a coincidence. She had never noticed this before. Chapter 6. Willow was just starting to sense something was wrong when Makoto interrupted her. Well, I didn't want you to worry, so I didn't mention it, he said, leaning back on the boat and pretending to feel unwell. My head hurts so much, I feel like I'm going to vomit. Wait, I think I have some motion sickness pills in my bag. Just hang in there for now. Willow had no choice but to go to the front of the boat to fetch the medicine. Once she was far enough, Makoto smirked and looked at me. Stop pretending. No matter how much you pretend, it won't work. It's just a pathetic imitation. I'm her most beloved lonely city. That's why she cares about me. You're nothing. Even if you die on this boat, she wouldn't care. So what? I don't care. I still kept my eyes closed, completely indifferent. Makoto moved closer with malicious intent. If you didn't care, you would have divorced her already. What are you pretending for? You just want her to notice you, don't you? Since you insist on competing with me, I'll make sure you see it all through, so you can give up on any hopes. With that, he grabbed my arm and dragged me into the lake. Before I even opened my eyes, he ambushed me and pushed me into the water, instantly consumed by the cold, endless darkness. Like demons gnawing at my soul, I was jolted, my body convulsing, and my lungs uncontrollably filling with lake water. The ice-cold pain pierced deep, right into my bones. I desperately tried to climb up. I saw Willow's hand reaching down into the water, but she first pulled Makoto away. The sensation of suffocation spread through my body. I felt my body getting heavier, and I was slowly sinking to the lake's bottom. When I regained consciousness, I had been rescued to the shore, vomiting an entire bucket of water, blood and bile coughing from my mouth and nose. Nearby, Willow was performing CPR on the seemingly lifeless Makoto. "Makoto, you'll be fine. I'll save you." Seeing no response from Makoto, Willow became frantic, her hands shaking as she struggled. In desperation, she began mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. After several rounds, Makoto slowly opened his eyes. He looked straight at her, his eyes filled with a mixture of challenge and mockery. "Oh, Willow, how could you be giving me mouth-to-mouth? Your husband is watching, you know." Willow turned her head and saw my injuries were much worse. She froze for 5 full seconds, her voice shaking as she asked, "George, are you okay?" But all she received in response was an empty, lifeless gaze. There was no emotion in my eyes. I stood up and left without saying a word. Willow hurriedly cleaned up the mess and followed me home. She kept trying to explain herself the entire way back, growing increasingly impatient. "Makoto has always been afraid of lake water. I was worried something might happen to him, so I saved him first. I only gave him CPR because I was trying to save him. Don't think too much about it. Okay, Makoto saved my life before, so it's only right that I return the favor." But I didn't respond once. I quietly took out the prepared documents from the bedroom, which contained the signed divorce agreement. I couldn't stand being there for another moment. I spoke directly. "I have nothing more to say to you. We're getting a divorce, right now." Chapter 7. But before I could say divorce, Makoto suddenly interrupted us, looking as if he were deeply aggrieved. "Willow, actually, it was young Master Wang who pushed me into the water just now." "What?" Willow's face changed instantly. The little bit of softness in her expression vanished, replaced by a furious storm. "Why didn't you say this earlier?" "I was afraid of being retaliated against by young Master Wang." Seeing Makoto's innocent appearance, Willow's heart twisted in pain. Her hatred for me finally reached its breaking point. "George, do you have anything left to explain?" I sneered and shook my head. "No need. You wouldn't believe me anyway. You know you're not trustworthy." Willow grabbed the document and slammed it into my face. "I've known you for over 10 years. How did I not notice how malicious you are? I told you before, if you target Makoto again, I would retaliate tenfold. Starting today, I'm going to spend 3 days with Makoto at a hotel. During this time, I'll have people keep an eye on you, and you're not allowed to eat or drink anything. You can forget about the national competition. Watch as Makoto wins the championship, and then when I return, I'll slowly settle the score with you." After bringing in 10 bodyguards to keep watch, Willow turned and locked the door behind her. Heh, spending 3 days with Makoto to punish me. How shameless. But looking at her retreating figure, I didn't feel the slightest ripple on my face. She thought spending 3 days with Makoto was a punishment for me. What she didn't realize was that I no longer wanted her. The one she was punishing was herself. Soon enough, the 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, I contacted the art association in City B and began preparing for my solo exhibition. The night before I was set to leave, I received a message from Makoto regarding my Lonely City identity. "Mr. Lonely City, how's the progress on the painting? Can you finish it sooner?" I replied. "I'll send it to you tomorrow. But I heard you have a piece called Purgatory. Let's trade that one for mine." "All right, no problem." In the early morning, as the first light of dawn appeared, Makoto sent me the painting Purgatory. The moment I received it, I immediately set it on fire and burned it to ashes. After all that had happened, I had finally moved past my demons. In my previous life, I had given up on painting and lost my dreams, eventually dying because of Willow. But this time, I was going to pick up my paintbrush again, live my own beautiful life, and spread the name of Lonely City to the entire world. With my luggage in hand, the bodyguards swiftly opened the door, but they still tried to stop me. "Young Master Wang, Miss Lu said you need to report your itinerary before leaving." I pushed them aside. "I'm divorced from Willow. She has no say in what I do now." In the shocked gazes of the bodyguards, I got into a taxi and headed toward the new city. The sky was just right, neither too eager nor too impatient. "Willow, this is the last time we'll meet." Chapter 8. Meanwhile, on the other side, Willow had booked a luxurious art hotel for Makoto, costing 100,000 a night, with every meal carefully prepared. "Makoto, do you feel confident about the competition?" Makoto scratched his head and said, "I should be fine, but I still want to find more inspiration." "All right, whatever you need, just ask. I'll make sure to fulfill it." After Willow's promise, Makoto began making various demands. On the first day, he claimed he needed to meditate for 24 hours, so Willow personally fed him and massaged his feet, serving him around the clock. On the second day, he claimed he needed to observe a human model, So Willow removed her outerwear, keeping only minimal coverage, and presented her graceful figure under his watchful eyes. On the third day, he claimed he wanted to stimulate his artistic senses with physical contact, so Willow slept on the same bed with him. Lying close together, Makoto held her tightly, his face flushed with a sense of triumph, and finally made his last request. Willow, would you be willing to dedicate yourself to art? What do you mean? This competition, I want to make it about love, but I've never loved anyone before, and I've never been with any woman, so could you? As he said this, his hand reached for Willow's body. Willow instinctively pushed him away, her tone hesitant. This can't be right. I see you as an idol and a benefactor, but I'm a married woman. Willow, I'm so hurt. Makoto pretended to be disappointed. I've always been pure and kind. It's all for the sake of art. I never thought you'd think of me like this. He stood up and started dressing as if to leave. Well, forget it. Last year's competition already left a shadow on me. I'm only entering this one to paint for you in front of the whole world. Now it seems there's no need for that anymore. Hearing this, Willow clenched her lips tightly. She remembered that rainy night when she had been thrown out of her house due to her company's bankruptcy, despondent and wanting to commit suicide. But unexpectedly, she saw a painting by Lonely City, titled The Sea and the Sky at a magazine office. The brilliant colors, the gentle brushstrokes, were like a rainbow shining into her heart, giving her the hope to live on. Without Lonely City, she would have died that night. With that thought, she steeled herself and finally pulled Makoto back. Willow, you. Makoto feigned surprise but secretly smiled in his heart. He had finally won Willow over. Tomorrow, after the competition, he would publicly confess his love and reveal his Lonely City identity. After all, Lonely City had already retired and sealed his work, so who would know he was an imposter? The next day, on the day of the national art competition, since the well-known masters in the industry knew that Willow would be in charge of this competition, almost no one participated. The venue was filled with ordinary artists from across the country, and Makoto dominated the scene. To cheer him on, Willow had organized a cheering squad of tens of thousands, which stretched from the third ring road all the way to the venue. Go, go, Makoto, go. The cars drove along the road, with people on both sides offering encouragement and support. Seeing this, some bystanders began to discuss, isn't that Ito and her assistant? How come they're participating in the competition and making such a big scene? You don't know. I heard that Makoto is the legendary artist Lonely City. President Liu is a huge fan of his. Sitting in the convertible, Makoto enjoyed all the attention as he entered the venue. The competition was divided into two parts. All the artists would spend 3 hours painting in private rooms, after which the paintings would be displayed for public judging and ranking. And Liu could watch everything from the surveillance cameras. Standing at the venue, Willow was still comforting Makoto. Makoto, I'll be with you the whole time. Don't be too nervous. The championship is yours for sure. But I'm still a little nervous. Makoto smiled wickedly. How about you kiss me? That way, I'll relax. What are you joking about? There are so many people here. Willow's face remained stern, but her ears turned slightly red. Makoto pretended not to hear, leaning in towards her in front of everyone. Just as their lips were about to meet, Willow's phone suddenly rang. It was the bodyguard from the villa. President Liu, you need to come back right away. Young Master Wang just left with his luggage. Chapter 9. The bodyguard's voice came through, tinged with urgency. It seems he's serious this time. He even said he has already left you. Enough. Don't you know today is Makoto's competition? Stop bothering me with his nonsense. After hanging up, a surge of inexplicable anger welled up inside Willow. Without a second thought, she knew George was doing this on purpose. Choosing to leave at this critical moment, sulking, was just his way of trying to make her give up on Makoto and come back to him. Makoto pushed her aside and said, Willow, looks like your husband's really mad. Maybe you should go back. This only made Willow more frustrated. She suppressed her anger and smiled, saying, don't worry about him. Go ahead with the competition. Once Makoto left, she immediately dialed George's number, wanting to confront him and release all of her anger. However, all she got was a repeated message. We're sorry, the number you've dialed is not available. The cold mechanical voice felt like a bucket of cold water, instantly calming her down. She had known him for over 10 years. From childhood sweethearts to a respectful, affectionate couple, they had fought countless times. They had exchanged harsh words, thrown cups, smashed walls, and even threatened divorce. But no matter what happened, their phone lines were always open, so they could give each other an easy way out when things got tough. But this time, he had blocked her. Willow was initially uneasy, but then, she thought, how could George possibly block her? He loved her so much that even when she handed him the signed divorce agreement, he just tossed it aside. Perhaps he just turned off his phone. With this thought, Willow let out a sigh of relief and continued watching the live broadcast from the competition. On the screen, Makoto was working on a blank sheet of paper, but after struggling for a while, he didn't even draw a single line. After finally adding some color, he quickly tore up the paper and set a new blank sheet in front of him. As time passed, there was only 1 hour left before the submission deadline, and he still hadn't started. The crowd began murmuring, "This Makoto had such a grand entrance, but now he hasn't produced anything. I thought he would be amazing. I heard he's Lonely City. I can't believe that. There's no way Lonely City could be this mediocre." Hearing this, Willow interrupted coldly, "Have you all finished talking? Shut your mouths." She couldn't stand watching the artist she loved being mocked like this. Makoto, he must just be having an off day. Half an hour later, the camera caught Makoto turning his canvas around, moving to a spot out of the camera's view, and finally beginning to work on the painting. Seeing his serious expression, Willow finally relaxed. She knew Lonely City too well. He often struggled with nervousness and couldn't face the eyes of others. That's why he had always remained anonymous. Today, for her, he had chosen to reveal his identity and endure such immense pressure. Once the competition was over, she was determined to reward him properly. Half an hour passed. All the contestants began bringing their works out of the competition area and gathered in the center of the plaza. The other contestants had already lined up, and Makoto finally appeared from somewhere, hurriedly rushing over while holding a painting covered in a black cloth. "You finished so quickly. No wonder you're the genius artist Lonely City. I'm really starting to admire you more and more." Willow's eyes sparkled, and she couldn't help but pat his shoulder. Makoto grinned proudly. "It's all because you're here. I really pushed myself beyond my limits." "All right. Then place the painting up for scoring. You're definitely going to win the championship." As the scoring began, artists lined up to bring their works for judgment. When it was Makoto's turn, he grabbed the microphone. "Everyone, I have something important to say. I am the artist Lonely City. I entered this competition because I prepared a painting for my most beloved fan, Willow, and I want the whole world to know that I love her." At this, the crowd erupted. "What? He's the legendary artist Lonely City, the one with extraordinary skills. My God, he's actually willing to show himself for President Liu. She's so lucky." Upon hearing this, Willow was so excited she felt like she was about to float. She shouted at the stage, "Makoto, unveil the cloth and show me your work." The crowd screamed, and the judges' eyes were all fixed on the stage. After 3 years of being in seclusion, Lonely City was finally making a comeback. Everyone was eagerly waiting to see what would unfold. Makoto pulled the cloth off, and it slowly revealed a white sheet of paper. On it was a chat log made public. "Mr. Lonely City, could you paint something for me? I'm willing to pay any amount." Someone immediately realized what had happened. That's an imposter. He tried to buy a painting from Lonely City, and Lonely City played him. As soon as this was said, the crowd erupted into a tidal wave of curses. Willow froze, as though struck by a thunderbolt. Her heart shattered and her mind blank. How could this be? Makoto was an imposter. "Makoto, what are you doing?" Her face went pale as she rushed forward, snatching his phone from him. Sure enough, she found the message in his inbox. Her blood seemed to drain from her body, and she staggered a few steps back, her eyes now filled with hatred as she looked at Makoto. "How dare you deceive me? Who gave you the courage?" Makoto was so flustered he couldn't speak. I don't know what's going on. Someone must be setting me up." In the chaos, another person in the crowd screamed, "You're still trying to lie. The real Lonely City has already appeared. Look over there." The crowd surged, and Willow's heart felt like it was gripped by a giant hand as she scrambled toward the figure. On the screen, a trending topic was dominating the #1 spot. The true identity of Lonely City is finally revealed. He is none other than George Wang, the young master of the Wang family. Chapter 10. The trending topic was officially released by the association, accompanied by plenty of evidence. Lonely City's past artwork, Lonely City's hobby details, Lonely City's account identity information. Everything pointed to one conclusion: George is Lonely City. In that instant, Willow's heart was crushed and shattered on the floor. How could this be? How could this be? George was the one who had saved her from the shadows. She had known him for more than 10 years, from childhood friends to husband. How had she never noticed? But upon closer thought, various details started to emerge. George studied abroad in art, which coincided exactly with the period when Lonely City was most active. After George returned to the country, he was silent for months. Right after he was kidnapped, George had always been afraid of lakes, and so had Lonely City since childhood. Willow finally accepted this fact. As she recalled the events of these past days, her mind felt like it was going to explode. The overwhelming shock made her lose her balance completely. The world spun, and she collapsed heavily to the ground. The audience helped her up and gave her some water. Once she regained her senses, Willow suddenly widened her eyes. "George, I need to find George." She sprinted out of the competition venue, racing back to the villa at top speed. grabbing a few bodyguards and demanding, "Where is George? President Liu, we don't know. Young Master Wang hasn't returned yet." Willow went mad. "Then why didn't you write down his schedule? Young Master Wang said he had divorced you, so you no longer have control over him. He wants a divorce. Why didn't he notify me about such an important thing? Because you were with Mr. Ito for the competition, and he told us not to disturb you." The bodyguard's words stunned Willow right in place, causing her breath to freeze. She had indeed told them not to disturb her regarding George, because of her blindness. He was hurt enough to leave, because of her favoritism. She missed his warnings, never even getting to see him one last time. Looking back at the unusual behavior these days, there were clear signs, but she just couldn't see them. "No, he loves me so much, he wouldn't divorce me." Willow suddenly forced a smile, stood up, and pushed open the villa door. To prove that George was only being petty, she rushed to the bedroom to find something he hadn't taken with him. However, she discovered that everything related to George had disappeared. Childhood photos with her, gifts exchanged during their courtship, wedding photos hanging on the wall, everything was gone. The only thing left was a document on the bedside table. Willow, grabbing onto it like a lifeline, immediately tore it open, shredding it into pieces. A complete divorce agreement appeared. Swish. The overwhelming pressure made Willow gasp for breath, gripping the wall tightly, forcing herself to accept the truth. George had already divorced her. At the end of the agreement, her name was boldly signed. It was the signature she had written herself to threaten him, and now it had become the powerful tool for his departure. The boomerang she had thrown out had come back and hit her squarely. Regret flooded her mind, and her heart was drowning in bitterness. "George, how could you divorce me? I only signed to scare you." Chapter 11. Slumped at the head of the bed, Willow's eyes were swollen and red, full of self-blame. She asked herself over and over, why had she pushed George to the point of divorce? But the answer seemed obvious. 10 days ago, she brought the imposter home to take responsibility and even used divorce as a threat. 9 days ago, she had bought the most humiliating painting of his at the auction and given it to the imposter. 6 days ago, she wrongly assumed he was making a fuss, and even pressured him into respecting the imposter by donating blood. 3 days ago, she had saved the imposter with her own hands, performing CPR on him, ignoring how terrified he was of water. Enduring the despair, George had been her childhood crush, her husband with whom she had shared everything, and the idol she respected most. Yet because of her blindness, she had driven the person she loved the most away. Willow slapped herself hard several times, completely breaking down. She didn't know how long it took, but eventually, she staggered to her feet, her gaze empty, as if she could consume anyone with it. She walked outside the villa and called Wang's parents first. However, they seemed to be prepared, and had blocked her on everything. She could only call her assistant, find out where George went immediately. "You must locate him." "Understood, President Liu." Willow walked for a long time along the roadside, until she came across the Western restaurant she and George often went to. She pushed open the heavy wooden door and found a seat. As usual, the waiter silently placed 2 steaming, fragrant burgundy braised beef dishes on the table. Recalling the past, George would always frown slightly after tasting a bite, then helplessly say, "The chef's salt shaker must have fallen into the pot again today." And she, always, would laugh and counter him for being too picky. In a daze, Willow pierced a soft piece of beef, bringing it to her mouth, but all she tasted was the deathly silence of salt, salty to the point of bitterness, burning her throat. She gulped down a large sip of red wine, trying to wash it down, but the wine was so bitter it made her eyes sting. On the empty chair across from her, it seemed George's figure was once again focused on cutting his steak, but the next moment, that image was violently torn apart in her blurry vision. The occasional clink of knives and forks against the fine china echoed sharply, hollow and empty. "Miss Liu, are you okay?" The waiter brought 2 glasses of red wine and looked at the seat with a sigh. "You and young Master Wang have been sitting here for 10 years. You really are nostalgic. By the way, young Master Wang hasn't arrived yet. I remember he's very punctual. That time, when he was a few minutes late due to traffic, he painted a picture on the spot to apologize to you." "Paint again. A painting," Willow repeated unconsciously. She remembered those heartwarming paintings, those little things that once made her heart feel sweet. This time, however, those sweet fragments turned into the sharpest glass shards, cutting through her already broken heart. And this time, Willow suddenly looked up, her voice cutting through the soft music in the restaurant, causing the neighboring table to glance over. She stared fiercely at the empty chair, her eyes burning red, but tears flowed down. "George, how long are you going to be late this time? I don't want you to paint for me anymore. I just want you to come back." Her tears, hot as they were, landed on the napkin, leaving a mark of despair. Suddenly, the phone screen at the edge of the table lit up, showing the assistant's name. Willow's sobs stopped abruptly. Grabbing the phone as if clinging to the last lifeline, she shakily pressed it to her ear. President Liu. The assistant's voice was unusually clear. We couldn't find any leads on young Master Wang, but we found surveillance footage of Assistant Ito bullying him. We also found that Assistant Ito just purchased an overseas flight ticket. Chapter 12. After the assistant sent over the surveillance photos via email, Willow immediately opened them. The villa's surveillance footage captured Makoto fighting for the trophy. The lakeside footage showed Makoto dragging George into the water. She watched them one by one, her body exploding with immense rage. Makoto not only impersonated Lonely City to deceive her, but he had also done these things to George. She had originally planned to find George and slowly settle things with him, but now, it seemed she needed to make him suffer first. Filled with both heartbreak and fury, Willow rushed to the office. Bang! The door was violently kicked open, making a sharp, piercing sound. At the desk, Makoto froze mid-action, hurriedly stuffing things into a suitcase. Willow stood at the door with a cold, stern expression, her voice like a knife dipped in ice. Great artist. Packing your bags so late. Are you off to find some inspiration? The blood drained from Makoto's face, and his body uncontrollably began to tremble. The suitcase tipped over with a loud thud and fell to the floor. Why, Willow? He forced out a smile that was uglier than tears, his voice trembling uncontrollably. Why you? How did you find me? The company received an urgent overseas project, and as an assistant, I was supposed to go on the business trip for you. Overseas project. Willow stepped forward, her anger threatening to blow the roof off. You impersonated Lonely City, causing me to end up like this, and you still want to run. She slapped the photos she was holding straight into his face, the paper scattering like snowflakes. You deliberately opposed George at the auction, stole his trophy at home, and pushed him into the water on the boat. What you did is 100 times worse than impersonating Lonely City. As Makoto saw the irrefutable evidence, his pupils suddenly constricted, and his knees buckled, causing him to collapse onto the floor. Willow, I was wrong. I was really wrong, Makoto cried, crawling toward Willow's feet with both hands and knees. I shouldn't have impersonated Lonely City to get close to you, but it's all because I love you. Willow, do you really not feel anything for me, apart from my identity? He raised his swollen, bleeding forehead, his eyes filled with humble pleading. George is gone, and you need someone to take care of you. Actually, I can. Shut up, Willow interrupted sharply, her eyes burning with overwhelming anger and deep hatred. Take care of you? You are nothing but a dirty imposter for the rest of your life. He was traumatized by being kidnapped, yet you still had to steal his painting. You shattered the trophy he worked so hard to get. He was terrified of water, and you deliberately pushed him into the lake. Willow's voice suddenly rose, her sharp sobs nearly frantic. You ruined him like this, and I will never forgive you. At her words, the humble pleading on Makoto's face instantly froze, quickly twisting into pure malice and resentment. Heh, hee. He suddenly started laughing, his laughter echoing in the empty gallery. Yes, I did all of it. So what? Willow, what do you think you are? Every time I bullied George, you were always the one who silently allowed it. Chapter 13. Upon hearing these words, Willow's body trembled violently, and her face turned ashen. He loves you so much. His paintings are all about you, yet you never recognized him. You blind fool. Makoto stepped closer, a twisted joy on his face. It was you who cheated during your marriage. It was you who drove your own man away. I just gave him a little push. Ha ha ha. Makoto's words felt like 1,000 red-hot knives, stabbing into Willow's deepest wound and cruelly twisting them. Shame, regret, and a raging fire of anger instantly consumed all of her rationality. She raised her hand, using all her strength to slap him. Slap. The sharp sound of the slap echoed through the space. Makoto staggered back a few steps, but he only laughed even more wildly. Hit me, even if you kill me. It won't change the truth. Someone, take him to the basement. Willow's voice was cold and piercing, devoid of any warmth, only burning with a hatred that sought to destroy everything. A few bodyguards, dressed in black suits and with cold expressions, silently rushed in, immediately pinning the still shouting Makoto to the ground. They dragged him to the basement and tied him to a heavy pillar, the rope digging deep into his flesh. Willow, what are you trying to do? Makoto smiled painfully, his face as pale as death. You think hitting me once can bring George back? He will never look at you again in this lifetime. Willow's heart clenched, and she coldly ordered, hit him. Keep hitting him until he begs for mercy. I want to return George's pain 100-fold. The bodyguards obeyed the command, their large fists landing mercilessly on Makoto's abdomen, chest, and ribs. The dull sounds of the blows and Makoto's heartbreaking screams instantly filled the entire space. Ugh! The punches came down like a torrential rain. Makoto twisted his body futilely, his $8 million Starry Sky suit torn apart, covered in dust and blood. Each heavy strike sent his internal organs into turmoil, his vision going black. The excruciating pain from his broken ribs made it almost impossible to breathe. Willow watched expressionlessly, her eyes showing no pity, only a cold, burning hatred. It wasn't until Makoto was left gasping for breath, barely able to scream, only twitching and groaning in agony, that she raised her hand. Stop. The bodyguard stepped back. Makoto, like a pile of broken flesh, hung limp from the rope, blood pouring from his mouth and nose. His eyes glazed over. Willow's gaze swept across a corner of the gallery, and she picked up several broken shards of glass. By the way, George was nearly fatally injured by glass shards and almost bled to death. Willow's voice was light, but carried a chilling coldness that sent shivers down the spine. Makoto's eyes widened as he saw the gleaming shards of glass. He frantically shook his head, struggling. Get away from me. What do you want to do? Willow suddenly raised her hand and forcefully drove one of the sharp glass shards into Makoto's arm, which was bound to the pillar. Then, she dragged it downward with a violent motion. Schlick. The sound of flesh tearing was clear and distinct. Ah! Makoto let out an inhuman scream, his body convulsing violently. Blood gushed out from the deep wound in his arm, flowing down the pillar in a twisted stream. But this wasn't over. Willow picked up more sharp glass shards of various sizes from the floor. Makoto, seeing the approaching glass, finally felt fear. He screamed, "How long are you going to keep this up? Do you want to kill me?" Willow ignored him completely, grabbing the shards and relentlessly stabbing them into every part of his bound body. Makoto's heart-wrenching screams filled the air, his blood dyeing him red. The strong smell of blood hung heavily in the air, and the pain nearly caused him to lose consciousness. At the sight, Willow's bloodthirsty madness slightly receded, but her hatred remained undiminished. She thought of the cold lake water, thought of George's desperate struggles in the water. She whispered, her gaze empty and cold, "Untie him. Drag him to the car." Chapter 14. The bodyguards roughly dragged Makoto, treating him like a dead dog, and threw him into the car. An hour later, Willow brought him to an even more terrifying lake, one so cold it was known as the Lake of Death. Makoto shivered as he looked at the black lake surface, instantly overwhelmed by an indescribable fear. "No," he weakly struggled, his eyes filled with intense terror. "Throw him in." Willow's 3 words sentenced Makoto to his torture. The bodyguards didn't hesitate. They lifted Makoto up and, like tossing a sack of trash, threw him forcefully into the center of the lake. Splash! The icy, bone-chilling water immediately submerged Makoto, and the violent impact and coldness made his countless wounds feel like they were being pierced by thousands of needles at once. He finally began to fear and beg for mercy. "I was wrong. I was wrong. Please spare me." He instinctively flailed and struggled, but the massive blood loss had drained all his strength. Each movement brought suffocating pain, accompanied by the despair of nearing death, the coldness, and the sharp agony deep in his bones. Willow stood on the shore, expressionless, watching the lake, her eyes hollow. The words echoed in her mind, "You blind fool." Makoto was certainly hateful, but wasn't she also blind? In 3 years of marriage, her obsession with Lonely City had grown deeper, and her feelings for George had grown weaker. Makoto, with just a little disguise, had fooled her completely, making her unable to even recognize the men she loved the most. At the auction, when George had to watch her light the lantern for Makoto, how humiliated must he have felt? When the trophy was smashed, and George was framed while she protected someone else, how unjust it must have been for him. When he was pushed off the boat, terrified of water, struggling to the point of fainting, how helpless and despairing must he have been? Willow couldn't bring herself to think any further. Just thinking of George's face caused her heart to ache in empathy, the pain so unbearable that it felt as if she couldn't breathe. He had loved her for over 10 years, and as his wife, she shouldn't have had any thoughts for other men. His paintings had given her a new life, and as a fan, she should never have pushed her idol into the abyss. From every angle, she had failed, utterly and completely. The thought that she might never see George again overwhelmed Willow with such pain that she finally broke down, tears streaming down her face. "George, I truly know I was wrong. I was blind. I was deluded. Please come back. Okay, I'll make it up to you in the next life." But unfortunately, he could no longer hear her words. Her regret was blown away by the wind, carried off to who knows where. Suddenly, she raised her head and forced herself to stop crying. Instead of torturing Makoto, there was something even more important she had to do: find George. They had shared more than a decade of emotions. Surely there was still a chance. If she could apologize and humble herself, perhaps he could return to her. With that thought, Willow regained her confidence. She hauled Makoto, barely alive, out of the lake and left the area, immediately calling her assistant. "From now on, stop all business, everyone. Find George. He's already exposed his identity. Follow the trail. Dig up the earth if you have to, but find him for me." Chapter 15. On the other side, I got off at the B City train station. The late autumn air in B City carried a dry, biting chill. I made my way to a corner of the city, tightening my windbreaker, and pushed open the heavy glass doors of the B City Painting Art Association, cutting off the noise of the bustling street behind me. Inside the lobby, the heating was on full blast, and the musty scent of aged paper filled the air. This familiar yet foreign smell made me pause for a moment. I walked straight to the reception desk and handed over the materials I had prepared earlier. The staff member, a young woman, glanced at the name column as she took the documents, her eyes widening slightly. "George, you're the Lonely City artist." I remained calm, nodding slightly. "Yes, that's me. Could you please process my membership registration? Also," I paused, my voice low and steady, "I'd like to request a 2-month delay for my personal exhibition originally scheduled for the beginning of next month." As a young heir to a wealthy family, I had countless ways to prevent my information from being discovered by her subordinates. But once I hosted an exhibition, it meant I would have to make a personal appearance. I didn't want Willow to find me so soon. Perhaps in 2 months, she would have calmed down by then. Moreover, 2 months would be enough time for me to further hone my painting skills. The staff member looked surprised. "A delay, Mr. Wong. Your exhibition's promotional campaign has already started, and many collectors and media are keeping an eye on it. Wouldn't delaying it be personal reasons?" A subtle weariness flashed in my eyes, almost undetectable. "All right, I'll process that for you right away." Seeing my firm attitude, the staff member didn't dare ask further questions and quickly began typing on the computer. Just then, a clear, refreshing voice came from behind. Hesitant and unsure, "Are you George?" I froze for a moment and slowly turned around. To my surprise, I saw Anna, my senior from when I studied in France. She was dressed in a cream-colored turtleneck and khaki skirt, her long, jet-black hair loosely pinned up behind her, exposing the elegant curve of her swan-like neck. "Anna." A flash of surprise crossed my face before it turned into a calm smile. "It's been a long time. Your Lonely City news has been spreading online," she said, her voice curious, with less of the usual distance between us. "But isn't your family based in a city? What brought you to B City?" Anna looked at me with a probing gaze, tinged with a faint trace of concern. I gave a light smile. "Just needed a change of scenery to clear my mind." Anna nodded, and after a brief moment of silence, she followed me as we leisurely chatted while walking through the lobby. The brightly lit association hall was bustling with people, but our corner seemed isolated, and the atmosphere grew subtly tense. She suddenly spoke, her voice quiet but with a serious undertone that left no room for refusal. "George, you've put down your brush for 3 years, and now you're picking it up again. Why don't you practice on me first? You want me to paint something for you?" I looked up, a bit surprised. "Yes, right here, using the tools over there." Anna pointed to a small round table nearby where members could rest and practice. Her lips curled up slightly. "I also want to see if the Lonely City genius painter, who hasn't picked up a brush in 3 years, really has lost his touch, as the rumors say." Chapter 16. All right, I naturally picked up the drawing board. "Since it's you, senior, who wants to see, I'll make sure to do it well." After saying this, I faced Anna and began to draw with utmost seriousness. Upon seeing this, Anna's cold eyes flickered with a hint of ripples. Like a stone thrown into an icy lake, she watched the men in front of her, who seemed even more somber than she remembered, and fragments of memories from their time studying abroad resurfaced in her mind. Back then, while they were both at the art academy, she had already learned about his identity as Lonely City and gradually developed feelings for him. Her fantastical daydreams shifted from admiration to affection. She had planned to confess after graduation, but she discovered that he was already engaged, so she carefully hid her feelings, quietly observing him from afar. She knew everything that happened to him in a city. Her reason for asking him to paint was not only to give him a chance to practice but also to help him fully move on from the situation with Willow. Anna's thoughts wandered like this. 20 minutes later, I stopped painting. The other practicing artists around us were drawn to my painting, unable to help but praise it. "Of course, it's Lonely City. Only you can capture this kind of stunning beauty in your style." Expressing a portrait with 7 different colors, the composition is full of tension, yet so full of life. "And the model, she's beyond beautiful." Upon hearing this, Anna couldn't help but become curious. She stood up and walked over to the drawing board, only to find a face that was even more beautiful than when she was younger. This was clearly her own face, from years ago, when she was at her most beautiful. Anna was taken aback. "Was I really that beautiful?" I smiled and said, "My painting style is from 3 years ago, so the person I painted should be from 3 years ago, too." The crowd instantly began to joke, and the atmosphere was filled with Anna's shy presence. After that portrait, there was a subtle shift in Anna's behavior towards me. She remained as cold as ever, but she started to approach me more actively. In the first week, while we were tidying up the painting tools, she seemed to casually mention, The alley in the west side of the city is great for sketching. The afternoon light is just right. Want to go? She didn't look at me, but her ears were faintly flushed. I paused, smiled faintly, and said, sure. The old alley was weathered, with golden autumn leaves scattered around. We set up our easels and started painting. When we reached the same scene, our gazes silently met, looking into her eyes, which reflected the autumn breeze. My tightly wounded heart relaxed a little. In the second week, she stood at the door of the studio, inviting me again. There's a new Sioux-style noodle restaurant. The food is quite good. Want to grab a bite? The steam rose from the noodle bowls, and she took small bites of the braised pork noodles, her gaze fleeting as it briefly brushed against me. I watched her soft frown amidst the warm steam, and the calmness I hadn't felt in a long time quietly grew inside me. In the third week, she paused at the street corner and took a gray scarf from her bag. I saw this while shopping and thought it would look good on you, so I bought it. Her fingers gently brushed my chin. My heartbeat faltered, but I quickly steadied myself and graciously accepted the warmth she offered. From then on, she became a regular at my studio, filling the void in my heart with her company. The ice in my heart slowly melted, and I sensed her feelings for me, but I never responded, as if I was hesitating about something, until one day, a month later, Anna confessed, holding a rose in her hand. I gently placed my hand over hers, my voice strained. Anna, thank you, but I can't right now. Chapter 17. Anna didn't pull her hand away. Instead, she gently grasped my cold fingers, her touch soft. It's okay. I know you're still afraid of what happened before. I can wait for you. This understanding stirred my heart more than any confession could, and the ice deep within me silently cracked. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. The grand opening of the Lonely City personal art exhibition was in full swing, with crowds of visitors filling the venue. In addition to the fans who had come from far and wide, there was one figure who seemed out of place, Willow. She had searched for him tirelessly in a city for 2 whole months, but the person she was looking for had hidden himself too well. There wasn't a trace of information to be found. Only when the exhibition's address was publicly revealed did she rush over without a moment's hesitation. At that moment, Willow was standing in front of the glass wall of the exhibition, her gaze locked on her reflection in the glass. Her wine-red dress was a limited edition from Wong, perfectly outlining the curves she was proud of. It had taken 2 full hours to perfect her makeup. Every detail had been painstakingly attended to, striving for perfection, but it still didn't feel enough. She felt like something was missing. She desperately smoothed out an almost invisible wrinkle on the dress, then quickly pulled out her powder and lipstick, touching up her makeup with meticulous care before she was satisfied. To win George back, I must show him the most perfect version of myself. It was as though she were convincing herself, as long as I'm willing to make amends, to admit my mistakes, he will come back. After all, he loves me so much. 10 minutes later, Willow bribed all the guards and found George's resting room. Her heart began to race, her palms slightly sweaty as she knocked on the door. Come in. A deep, familiar voice came from inside. Willow opened the door, her smile blossoming to its fullest, filled with the joy of reunion and an ocean of grievances and apologies. George, however, her carefully prepared words froze in her throat the moment she saw the scene inside. The man she had been yearning for was standing by the window, and a woman in a long dress was carefully adjusting his shirt collar, her movements smooth and practiced. The woman's profile was delicate, her demeanor serene as frost, and her image was every bit as striking as Willow's own. Hearing the door open, both of them turned in unison. When the man saw her, there was no ripple of emotion in his eyes, only an unfathomable depth, like a still pond. Anna's hand was still resting on my collar, her calm gaze landing on Willow, exuding an air of quiet certainty. Willow's smile stiffened, feeling as if she had become a ridiculous clown who had intruded on someone else's world. Do you need something? I broke the silence with a voice that was cold, lacking any warmth. Willow's mind went blank, the shock almost leaving her speechless. She opened her mouth. George, can we talk alone? No need. I directly refused, still standing beside Anna as I added, whatever you have to say, say it here. Willow's heart felt as though it had been gripped by a cold hand, the pain so sharp that she could hardly breathe. George, finally, she couldn't hold it back any longer, her voice cracking with tears. I came to apologize. I truly know I was wrong. I was deceived by that bastard Makoto. He impersonated Lonely City, used all his tricks to deceive me, and I lost my mind. I listened with indifference, as though I hadn't even heard her. When she finally finished venting, I casually added, Willow, Lonely City is just a name, not a shield for your betrayal. If Makoto is Lonely City, does that mean you can hurt me with a clear conscience? Chapter 18. The words hit her like a sharp knife, piercing through all the carefully woven excuses she had built up. Willow's face turned as pale as paper, her body trembling like a leaf in the autumn wind, unable to find any counterargument. Yes, even if Makoto was Lonely City, should she have hurt her husband? These excuses were nothing more than a means of self-deception. I admit I was foolish. I was careless, she cried out in despair, trying to grab my arm. George, please give me another chance. I will make it up to you. I know you still have feelings for me, right? After all, we've been together for so many years. I coldly jerked her hand away, with such force that she staggered slightly. Ms. Lou, please have some dignity. We are divorced. The name was signed by your own hand. At those words, Willow's already aching heart felt even more unbearable. The person she loved had been certain he wouldn't leave. She had threatened divorce time and again, convinced that he would never sign the papers, but he did, and now, she didn't want it anymore. At that moment, Anna, who had been silent until then, stepped forward and naturally took my arm. Ms. Lou, the exhibition is still ongoing, and there are many guests outside. George needs to rest now. If there's nothing else, please leave. Willow was about to explode at the sight of another woman commanding her. A powerful mix of jealousy and rage exploded inside her, making it unbearable. George, I can accept this for myself, but who does she think she is to drive me away? Think about our 10+ years together. Now, are you going to let another woman take control over me? Seeing her act so self-righteous, Anna wasn't going to let it slide. Her gaze was as calm as water. Ms. Lou, wasn't that how you treated George before? How come when the same treatment is given to you, you can't accept it? Willow was instantly silenced, her mouth feeling as though it had been filled with lead. Only then did she realize how shameless and hypocritical she had been. Just facing another woman had already brought her to the brink of collapse. It was unimaginable how much damage she must have done to George back then. Leave, I said coldly, my eyes filled with nothing but cold indifference and a desire to drive her away. George, don't make me leave, please. Despair and heartbreak almost made Willow collapse, but she refused to give up. She clung desperately to the table. Several bodyguards entered, forcibly dragging her out of the resting room. The door slammed shut behind her, cutting off everything from the inside. Willow leaned against the cold wall, like a puppet whose soul had been taken away, dazed and lost, tears pouring down her face, ruining the makeup she had so carefully applied. She weakly lifted her head, her gaze wandering aimlessly across the splendid gallery, the breathtaking artworks around her. Suddenly, her eyes locked on something in the prominent spot. There, hanging, was a large portrait titled Rose. The woman in the painting was looking back over her shoulder, her eyes serene yet full of strength. In George's brushstrokes, she was stunningly beautiful, as if she were the very center of the world. Willow immediately recognized her, the woman from the resting room earlier. Chapter 19. Did you hear? The most valuable painting today is Rose, which George painted for his senior, Anna. This painting is too beautiful. They truly are a perfect match. She raised her eyes again and noticed a small, inconspicuous painting in the corner, titled Swing, with a date from 5 years ago. The painting depicted a woman swinging in a garden, her skirt billowing in the breeze. It was a piece he had specifically created for her, a precious memory he had kept on canvas. Now, that painting, Swing, was lost among the many masterpieces, faded and dim. Meanwhile, the large piece, Frost and Snow, was bathed in the spotlight, receiving all the admiration and praise from the crowd. The vast contrast between the two was like a dull blade, deeply slicing into Willow's heart. She looked at Anna, the woman now given life in the painting, then looked at her own reflection in the glass, disheveled and defeated. Her heart ached to the point of numbness. George had finally picked up his paintbrush again. He had finally regained the light and warmth. He had given his soul, his deep affection, to someone else, and all of this was something she had created with her own hands. Ugh! The immense regret and pain swept over her like a tsunami, drowning her completely. She pressed her mouth shut, but couldn't stop the flood of tears. She had lost him, forever, completely, lost him, in this dazzling temple of art, under the glory that belonged to him and another woman. Willow curled up in the cold corner, her tears flooding like a broken dam. 5 hours later, the personal exhibition was a massive success, and my fame skyrocketed. One of my paintings even sold for tens of millions. As the event neared its end, numerous industry elites came to congratulate me, engaging in lively conversations. Throughout it all, Anna graciously looped her arm through mine, accompanying me and toasting with me again and again. Perhaps it was the effect of the alcohol, but when we returned to the resting room, the distance between us closed once more. Anna, thank you for helping me handle the exhibition today, and for pretending to be my girlfriend. I smiled, then casually asked, is there anything you want as a gift? I can give it to you as a thank you. Of course, there is. Anna suddenly leaned in closer, her expression as calm as ever, but her eyes sending a silent flirtatious message. I want to become your real girlfriend. Can you give me this gift? Faced with her earnest request, this time, I didn't refuse. Of course, you can. I looked at Anna, her cheeks slightly flushed, our eyes meeting. In that moment, countless thoughts collided inside me. I felt bolder, gently cupping her face and leaning in to kiss her. After the exhibition, that heart-wrenching expulsion didn't make Willow give up immediately. She was like a trapped beast stumbling through a maze, stubbornly searching for the exit that had been permanently closed to her. In the days that followed, George's resting room, the Art Association's office, and even Anna's gallery began to frequently receive exquisitely wrapped gift boxes. From limited edition sets of art supplies worth tens of thousands, to multi-million-dollar haute couture dresses, to rare antique paints, it seemed Willow was trying to build a path back to the past through material things, hoping that expensive gifts would fill the debts she couldn't express. Chapter 20. Each gift was accompanied by a card, carefully written with her humble, pleading words. George, I remember you once mentioned this set of brushes. Miss Anna, this is a small token of my appreciation. Please don't dislike it. May you both be well. However, all of these gifts, laden with her obsession, were returned without exception. Sometimes I coldly rejected them myself, and more often, Anna calmly instructed the assistant to handle them. The last time, Willow stubbornly placed a redwood gift box containing a limited edition master's art book at the door of the Art Association. She almost begged Anna, Miss Anna, please accept this for George. I just want to make up for my mistakes. Anna stopped, her cold gaze falling on Willow. There was no anger, no disdain, only a deep weariness and detachment. Ms. Lou, what you call atonement is really just a way to soothe your own unease. We don't need anything from you, neither now nor in the past. She signaled to her assistant. Throw it out. Willow watched as the box, representing her costly gesture, fell to the ground, the last shred of her dignity completely shattered. At that moment, she finally realized that all her efforts had been nothing more than a self-inflicted humiliation. Just like George had once been, she stood at the entrance of the Art Association, where people were walking by. The sunlight was blinding, yet she felt an intense coldness, as if the fire in her heart had been completely extinguished. Crushed into ashes, Willow suddenly disappeared, and she never appeared again in B City's art scene. Time passed silently. 2 years was enough for my name, Lonely City, to go from a rising star in the art world to an industry-recognized master. My works were sold at auction houses for astronomical prices, becoming treasures pursued by top collectors worldwide. Every opening of my exhibitions became an event in the art world. On this day, a new poster once again covered the exterior walls of the exhibition hall, but the focus of the poster wasn't a stunning painting, it was an oil painting titled The Pure Bride. The woman in the painting wore a simple, pure wedding dress, her happiness and peace almost spilling off the canvas. At the bottom of the poster, a prominent line of text read, "This painting is dedicated to Anna, who will soon become my wife." The news swept through like a whirlwind, with fans and media flooding the exhibition, turning the venue into a sea of joy. Filled with the clamor of blessings, people marveled at the new piece, and more fervently discussed the love story of the art world's newest couple. I smiled in response to the well wishes, my gaze sweeping over the excited crowd. It suddenly paused at the edge of the room. In a quiet corner, a woman wearing a wide-brimmed hat and a mask stood apart from the festivities. Her hat was pulled low, covering most of her face, but I could still recognize her. It was Willow. My gaze lingered for only a brief moment before naturally moving away, as if I had just seen a stranger who didn't matter. I gently tucked a loose strand of hair behind Anna's ear and whispered something to her, causing her to smile sweetly. In the corner, Willow saw everything. A wave of endless bitterness and pain surged up inside her. That gentleness, once hers alone, now belonged to someone else. She quickly lowered her head, her fingers tightly gripping the edge of her clothes, until her knuckles turned white. The celebration continued until evening. The crowd slowly dispersed, and the dazzling light softened. The exhibition was now left with only Willow, quietly staring at the painting swing. She sighed softly, as though something heavy had finally been set down. Then, without a sound, she walked out of the empty gallery, her figure fading into the city night, lit by the glow of the evening lights.